Hi guys, and welcome to today's session on 10 signs and symptoms of depression. My name is Gilberto. I'm a psychotherapist, counselor, hypnotist, and coach that works in Sudbury in Northern Ontario, Canada. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video today is to really talk about not only the signs and symptoms of depression, but also the stigma that's associated to depression and ways for you to overcome it. So the first sign is just that I see with patients exhibiting symptoms of depression are this real feeling of hopelessness or pessimism. It seems like everything seems to be a chore. Now, it's normal for people to have the blues and feel a little off, but this is kind of a persistent kind of feeling of pessimism and negativity that just kind of continues to persist for more than 2 weeks. So this kind of, clients often describe it like a dark cloud that continually follows them. Or I had a client just yesterday talk about, it's like she sees the world through a clouded veil. So there's always seems to be a distance between her and the world around her. Obviously, when you feel that way, there's a lot of feelings of guilt, like I should be more, I should do more, what's wrong with me? I must be flawed and defective. My family won't want to be with me. My partner won't want to be with me. So it's kind of this persistent, nagging, critical voice inside a person's mind that keeps making them feel like they are not worthy. The next sign is a loss of interest or pleasure in things that you once enjoyed. So for some people that I've worked with, if they were really into sports, hockey, football, soccer, whatever it may be, it's just like it doesn't seem to have the same pull. I mean, even sexual intercourse, some of my clients obviously really enjoyed that at one point. It's just like, whatever, I don't have the energy, I just don't really care for it. So there's a real cycle, a vicious kind of cycle that continues to kind of spin, where the person just doesn't really want to feel like they're motivated to do anything. So again, we talked about it's normal to feel off on some days where you're just not yourself, but this is very persistent and consistent over time. It's this feeling of emptiness, like it's kind of you versus the world. It's like you're disconnected. Some people have compared it to being in the fog. It's just not feeling like you're a part of something. Obviously, we talked about the lack of motivation, but clients often talk about this deep sense of fatigue where I'm just tired all the time. I don't have energy. It's like there's this drain put on them from the time they wake up to the time that they go to bed. So they have great difficulty in having a follow through, like even going for a daily walk or something. It's just this kind of dragging your butt kind of feeling. So the next symptoms is real difficulty in concentrating. Even simple tasks become overwhelming. Sometimes it's even recall, forgetting some important things, or just the inability to make decisions. It's like you're forever in this state of limbo where you can't seem to move forward, and it's like you're stuck in this state where you just feel low. Now, when we talked about decreased energy and fatigue, often what comes with that is either bouts of insomnia, which is kind of interesting, because if you would think as an outsider, if you haven't experienced this before, that, well, how would they have insomnia if they're always tired? Well, it kind of fits hand in hand. A lot of times when my clients will report just being exhausted, but when they go to bed, just the thoughts don't stop. These automatic negative thoughts or ands just kind of fill their mind, and we call it like problem surfing. Is like channel surfing, but problem surfing. So you think about one problem, and then you feel like maybe, okay, I'm just going to forget about that, and another problem pops up, and another problem pops up, and another problem pops up, and it always seems like you really want to sleep. Right when you really want to sleep, all these issues come to the surface. So some of my clients is the opposite end. They're in bed by 7 o'clock. They wake up at 7 o'clock exhausted, and they just want to sleep all the time. It's kind of in the sense that the hope is that maybe by sleeping things will get better. And oftentimes they feel like it rarely does. The next thing is around appetite. So for some of my clients, they go into a pattern of overeating. Now, especially if anxiety comes into play, when a person overeats, it actually pushes on the diaphragm and gives a relaxation response or a calming response. So sometimes my clients have a tendency to overeat. And some, because of the level of stress and the feeling of anxiety, is they just stop eating altogether. I know even for myself, when I was going through a tough time in my life, food was kind of the last thing I wanted to do. And I remember in 1 month I lost quite a bit of weight, not necessarily in a healthy way, just I really wasn't hungry at all. It's like food was not appealing at all. I didn't get any sense of enjoyment or pleasure out of it. I just didn't want to kind of participate. So you can really have the extremes. And I think what you notice in this list too is every person is really different. The next one is just this feeling of restlessness or irritability. So sometimes it swings from being really low to having this kind of energy or irritability, like, okay, I'm fed up of feeling this way, and people become short with their family members or loved ones because they're just frustrated with feeling the same way, and they wish that they could change their state, but often have a sense of powerlessness that they can't on their own. And lastly is obviously the most dangerous one, which is thoughts of suicide or actual attempts. Now, I take all these kinds of thoughts and risks seriously. For some of my clients is going and get more specific help, more intensive care than what I can offer as an outpatient counselor. So outpatient meaning that they would see me maybe once every week or once every 2 weeks. Sometimes people need much more care than that. And so sometimes there is a need for greater assistance. But when it gets to this, it's obvious that asking for help is of key importance and value. So now that I know the signs and symptoms, now what? So what should I do next? Probably your first step is kind of finding out what treatment options there is, and know that there's quite a bit of them. For some, it's to go see a family physician and to talk about what's going on. Now, a lot of times if a person sees a physician, they may get and receive medication, and there's some medication that actually my clients have said to me that they've been really, really helpful. And again, the type of medication, I can't really recommend one because that's outside of my scope of practice. But sometimes they would say one medication really worked for one person, and I hear the opposite for somebody else. So sometimes the physician will help a person and monitor their symptomology over time to where they can get the best help. On the medication front too, the other thing that's important is it usually takes for adults between 6 to 9 weeks, 8-9 weeks before the medication, like an antidepressant, really starts to have effect. So what I've noticed, especially with my young clients, is they get kind of impatient saying, well, I tried it for 3 weeks and it really wasn't working. And a lot of times you got to give it a chance to balance itself out. Now, the second way is obviously counseling or help. Now, there's different ways you can look at that. You can go to an outpatient counselor like myself. So sometimes we've talked about this in a previous video. It's through your employees assistance program or extended benefits. Sometimes there's free services, like I know in our local city, there's an outpatient services, especially for mood and anxiety disorders, where you can work within a group to help you overcome difficulties and issues. There's also some self-help groups and online platforms. I guess the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway from this that I'm hoping that you're going to get is if you're struggling with this, know that you're not alone and that there's a lot of help out there. The second thing is understanding your depression and its impact on you. So for a lot of my clients, we just talk about how's this impacting your life. What is it taking away? What would you like to change? So it's really just kind of having an in-depth discussion about where they stand with regards to the depression and seeing if they want to make some changes or not. And lastly, it's to recognize that some behavioral changes could improve your state of mind. So a lot of people talk about diet and exercise being an important part of wellness. And I would really encourage that as well. Now, we also mentioned that in some of the signs and symptoms, sometimes it's difficult to get out of bed. So that's where your systems of support really come into play. So if you have somebody that can kind of just hold you accountable and take you out for a walk, sometimes just doing that, just changing your physiology will make a pretty big impact on your mental health. I usually suggest to people that the walking that I suggest to all my clients to walk about 20 minutes a day. And it's not just about the movement like for weight loss and stuff. It's actually movement for mental health. The more you move, the less you're in your head. And the less you're in your head, the less you have the ability for those automatic negative thoughts to kind of take over. Especially more beneficial if you could do that with a friend, because then you could kind of talk out your stuff and have hopefully a different perspective. So that's it. Just some quick signs and symptoms. I guess, again, the most important thing in reducing stigma is to don't hesitate to reach out for help, whether that be from somebody in your immediate circle of care or that you seek the help of professionals. Again, if this has persisted for some time and there's more intrusive thoughts like suicidal thoughts, really I urge you to seek out some professional help. Look in your city and know what the resources are for you. So thanks so much for coming today. As usual, if you have any comments, thoughts, questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I will try to respond within a day. And with that, thanks so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful day.